WEFUNK. We funk.
But I did want to get into some other Oscar winners from Jersey in general.
Really?
But as well before that, though, I did want to even get into a little bit of the great film history of Jersey, because you actually brought it to my light at the beginning of the show, at the beginning of the whole No Genius from New Jersey experience when we were talking, and as well, I guess we should talk about. But we do plan on getting on the road for this podcast. That is going to be a pivotal part of the show. That's going to be an integral part of the whole No Genius from New Jersey podcast experience, is getting out on the road and doing some road trips. We've been, of course, coronavirus, slowed us down. Rich getting coronavirus, of course, slowed us down. And then Rich now had the shoulder surgery. We've had some setbacks, but we definitely very much plan on getting on the road. And this will be a perfect place to, would have been a perfect trip for us to start. But as Rich pointed out on one of the earlier shows, Fort Lee in New Jersey was actually the original Hollywood.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's it was like the original during the World War I era, pretty much from like 1909 to 1918. More than a dozen film studios, including some of the major ones: Victor Film, the Fox Film Corporation, Goldwyn Picture Corporation, Champion Universal, all had their studios in Fort Lee, and Fort Lee was like the main center for all film, and like the whole film studio world was all pretty much right out of Fort Lee in Jersey. And a couple of reasons came into play with this. A lot of it had to do with Edison, of course. Speaking of like the geniuses from New Jersey, but Edison built the Black Maria, which was like the first film studio, and where he invented the kinetoscope, which was like the original projector kind of thing. That was all invented by Edison in like West Orange or wherever fucking Edison had his lab. So due to the proximity with Edison's lab, and as well, of course, New York City, and all of like the money going on in New York City, it was the perfect...
the cliffs and everything there, like the landscape and everything too.
Yes, that's what I was going to say as well. And then the big part was the landscape as well, with the Hudson River. They would use to film lots of like harbor side and like ocean landscape on the Hudson. They used the woods at the Palisades to film a lot, including like Robin Hood. The original Robin Hood short film was in the woods in Fort Lee, like emulating England. As well, the cliffs in Palisades, like you said, were used a lot. Actually, the term cliffhanger, comes from the Pearl White, the famous Pearl White House of Hate serial films, where one of like the main photos for that was taken on the cliffs of the Palisades, and that show would end every time in like a suspenseful ending, which became known as a cliffhanger due to its association with the cliffs. And there's actually still in Fort Lee a cliffhanger point monumenting that area. But the term cliffhanger from right there in the Palisades, as well as just the original, as well as the original streets of Fort Lee, were used to film like lots of the original westerns. The Marx Brothers filmed their first stuff. Lots of like the famous, Hollywood, Fatty Arbuckle, Douglas Fairbanks, like all of the big,
John Barrymore.
Yeah, what the Barrymore, big connection with the Barrymore. Not even before John Barrymore, dude. Get this, but before John Barrymore, there was Maurice Barrymore. The great grandfather of Drew Barrymore, and like the patriarch of the family. He actually built the firehouse in Fort Lee. He built the firehouse in Fort Lee, raised off of money put on by he put on a play at a local beer garden that featured the acting debut of his son, John Barrymore, who went on to become the greatest actor of the generation, revolutionized acting with his portrayals of Hamlet in both New York City and London on stage. And then in the film era, like in the silent era, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Sherlock Holmes, and then all sorts of talkies when they started doing...
These guys were standing stand-up comedians, you would have never heard of him again. This guy played the firehouse in Fort Lee once.
Yeah, seriously. If you fast forward 100 years to the No Genius Boys.
And then he jumped off the cliff in a fucking depression.
Yeah. There'd be a lot more of that. But I guess ultimately
there's
speaking...
some nice houses. There's some beautiful houses still from that era in that area, right on the side of the cliff.
Yes, there is the Monument Park, and like you said, there's so much big development going on in Fort Lee in general. It's a great area. Now it's like obviously really associated in Jersey with the Asian community, and there's lots of like Asian markets. Yeah, with good Asian food. Yeah. But there's like the Yaohan or whatever that place is called. There are a lot of really great Asian markets, and it's a really unique cultural feel. We'll just say when you go to Fort Lee. But a real cool town, and still some old Hollywood remnants left. I guess to finish off on the little history, though, it ultimately left for L.A. kind of ultimately due. Well, the reason why everybody leaves Jersey for better weather and the year-round sunshine of L.A. And as well, I guess that ironically enough, but 100 years later, as we sit here still in coronavirus, dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, but the pandemic of 1918 had a lot to do with it, where after the pandemic, because as well, you're talking in the early 1900s, they didn't have heat. They didn't have great heat, obviously. So, trying to, like, heat the whole studios and all that, it was just not functional to keep the major finance going year-round in Jersey. So after the big influenza of 1918, they eventually just moved everything into Los Angeles full-time as well. I think there was some studio union infighting and stuff going on that all contributed to ultimately leaving Jersey. But like you said, a lot of stuff still left, or some stuff still left behind. I guess that like the First National Bank in Fort Lee is like the 100-year-old structure that was used in a lot as well. Are you familiar with Rambo's? Which is, I guess, now like a privately owned hotel, but it's like a 2-floor original structure that was used in a lot of filmings. It was like a saloon / hotel. It's called Rambo's Saloon in Fort Lee. That I guess, like there was 5 years ago, there was a whole big campaign to save Rambo's, and they did save it. But I guess to cycle back though to 2021 and coronavirus and all, and the Barrymore, Maurice Barrymore and John Barrymore. And the Barrymore contribution to New Jersey, but delayed in coronavirus and expected to open this February, is going to be a state-of-the-art film history museum and film center called the Barrymore Film Center. And it's going to feature like a whole museum of the history of the era, as well as like a 250-seat film center. And they're going to have lots of, as well, like you said, it's going to be located right across from that original bank and the Monument Park, which does already have like a little tourist setup for a lot of the history of the film, the Hollywood history, the original Hollywood history of Fort Lee in New Jersey. But they're going to really make a big effort with the Barrymore Film Center to really play in on that history and really raise up a lot more awareness around, because I grew up, fucking 15, 20 miles away from Fort Lee, and I never knew that. I'd literally been going there getting Chinese, the Asian food since I was in high school, and had never, Hiram, the hot dog place. I grew up with the original Callahan's and Hiram's. I was more of a Callahan's on 17 guy. And again, we'll get into some hot dog talk next week. Spoiler alert.
But, you know what's sad? More than 80% of the films that were filmed before 1950, more than 80% are gone already, never to be seen again, destroyed. Because
like the Masters,
the film just deteriorates once you make a film. I don't know how it is now, but it would start deteriorating.
Okay, see, the original film itself would not hold up. Because, honestly, it was like such a science to just get that film, to get that light projecting on the moving images through light projection on film, like that science experiment that's going on in the early 1900s to get all this stuff. You can imagine it's not going to have the staying power, and they weren't able to digitize it all, unfortunately.
Right.
I mean, they'll honestly probably restore a great amount. I think, actually, that the original Marx Brother short has been restored, but like they do a great job with restoration and with the multi-million-dollar complex like the Barrymore Center helping usher on movement. That'll get some things
one day there'll only be porn left.
I know the only film will be in woods, in various woods, scattered around the country, and. But I guess so. With that little bit of original Hollywood history and talk of the Barrymores, as well, though we do, of course, as we always like to give even more of a Jersey history shout out. But in honor of the Hollywood Oscars kind of feel, in honor of Jesse Brutter bringing home, bringing Nomadland possible. But we do as well want to go through some New Jersey Oscar winners. Okay, so I guess. And I will start it off with Ethel Barrymore, of course, who I guess would be Drew Barrymore's grandma and John Barrymore's
that's a grandmother name.
Or her grand aunt, I guess. I'm not exactly sure of where Ethel fits into that. I'm not sure if she's John's sister or John's wife.
I'm sure it's a lie where they put her in a family anyway. It's like, this is really your mother, but we're going to save your aunt.
You know what? It's like even a huge asterisk on the New Jersey residents Hollywood list that it's like there's a chance she might have lived in Fort Lee, but she's a Barrymore for fuck's sake. But Ethel Barrymore in 1945 won supporting actress. The first Jersey resident, Thomas Mitchell from Elizabeth, was the first Jersey resident to win an Oscar. 1939 for his role as the supporting actor in Stagecoach. All right, one of the all-time famous westerns. So the supporting actor, Thomas Mitchell, a Jersey guy. I guess some of the more recent ones. But how about Joe Pesci from Newark, supporting actor in Goodfellas, of course, which so happy to see. Did not realize that Joe Pesci was an Oscar winner for Goodfellas. But talk about a Jersey fuck, yeah.
Huge house down the shore.
Yes, so he's definitely like a Jersey guy, as well as Michael Douglas, who actually has a house in Ridgewood, from what I understand, or at least when I grew up at a house in Ridgewood. He's from New Brunswick. He won Best Actor for Wall Street. How about Susan Sarandon?
Great movie.
What's up?
Okay. That was a great movie, Wall Street.
Yes.
I loved it.
I mean, definitely Michael Douglas, Charlie Sheen, great flick.
Yeah, I was just watching clips the other day.
Susan Sarandon, an Edison, a Jersey girl from Edison, Best Actress.
Horror, man.
Rocky Horror. I know she won for Dead Man Walking, which I've not seen. Out of all the great Susan Sarandon roles, but
right.
As well, I guess a couple of the real big heavy hitters, though. I guess a couple of the Jersey icons. Bruce got the Oscar for Best Song for Philadelphia, as well. Frank Sinatra. How about Frank? Best Supporting Actor for From Here to Eternity. So not just the crooner, not just that's what made his career. I don't really know much about the history of Frank, but
if you ever saw The Godfather when he's like, "I need this part in the movie. You can be a man."
Okay,
that's supposedly the part.
Oh, interesting. I see. Well, that's cool. But because I definitely associate Frank more as like a with music, not acting. I know that a lot of those Elvis and Frank, a lot of the famous guys were doing two-way stars, but
I always think about his mother doing abortions when they used to say.
What was Frank's mom like an abortion doctor?
Well, yeah, she would do like abortions for poor people and shit.
Okay, that's a dark turn. Right. But I guess on to more Oscar winners. I guess a couple of the real heavy hitters, though, two of the great actors of all time, really, and of definitely of the generation. But Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson. Wow. All right, both. Yes, Jack, of course, from Neptune. All right, Best Actor from Cuckoo's Nest, As Good as It Gets. Best Supporting Actor from Terms of Endearment.
He just had a birthday the other day. I think he's like 8. How old is he? He's awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure, and really, in addition to all of the great performances, just like in addition to these Oscar performances, just an all-time icon of like culture and film, of course. But as well, Meryl Streep, one of the great actresses of the generation from Bernardsville. I think maybe she grew up in Morristown. It labeled her from Bernardsville, but she won Best Actress for both Sophie's Choice and Iron Lady. So 2 Best Actress wins for Meryl Streep, as well as Best Supporting Actress for Kramer vs. Kramer. So between Jack and Meryl,
they're thinking of remaking Sophia's Choice. Can you believe that?
Oh, really? Are they going to try to make it more sad? 30 years later.
Wrong.
Yeah, seriously.
Wrong pick.
I'm saying I have no idea what Sophie's Choice is about.
She picked. I think.
Is it a Frank Sinatra's mom situation? Because I've never seen it. I just know that it's a sad movie. But is it like an abortion tale? Actually, I never even knew that. I never put the choice word together. But
some shit she has to choose between two of her kids to live. One of them gets to live.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Every parent's gonna rethink that one.
So it's not like a. Okay, that could be an interesting remake, though, because I've never seen Sophie's Choice. I know that's like one of the classic movies, but I just like associate it as being known as one of the all-time sad movies. But
and you know what's funny? Let me tell you a Jack Nicholson thing really quick. When Otto was younger, his girlfriend worked at Bloomingdale's in New York, so he goes to see her at work, and he's in there, and he hears somebody behind him. Come on, babe. Come on, doll. I'm done with this. These lights are giving me a terrible headache. And he goes, wow, that's a great Jack Nicholson impersonation. And he turns around, and it's Jack Nicholson there shopping for lamps with Angelica Houston.
Wow.
and he was laughing. He goes, even he gets dragged out by his girl. You know what I mean?
Seriously. Even
shit.
He's got to go lamp shopping.
Yeah,
but
right.
Jack, is that why he always wears the sunglasses? This guy can't take. He's got light sensitivity problems, I guess.
Either that or
He's
the
got
cocaine.
fucking problems lamp shopping. Fucking wears sunglasses. All right, nice. Well, that's a great Otto Jack, Jack story for you. A great double dip there, but
I had to throw that in. I love that guy. Been missing him, Otto, forever.
Yeah, for sure. One of the great geniuses from Jersey, Otto Peterson, as well as Jack Nicholson, Meryl Streep. A couple others, I guess. Anne Hathaway, Olympia Dukakis, and Marie Sorvino. Wow. All Jersey girls kicking ass at the Oscars, much like Jessie Brutter in 2021 for her work on Nomadland.
Big F! WEFUNK. We funk.